So welcome to this first video in this short little series I'm doing for you guys, just to explain quickly and briefly the uses of different shaders and different material types that you could use when setting up your characters for your final presentations or in future uses. So the thing I think I should touch on first is actually the two types of shaders that are generally used, or the two types that are best used, I feel, for when you first get to grips with using a normal map, an ambient occlusion map, a specular map, and an emissive map, and all those sort of lovely shaders. And the two shaders are two materials, a Lambert and a Blinn. This is a Lambert, and how I basically explain a Lambert is it's a clay. It doesn't actually reflect any light. It absorbs the light and it casts the light on it, but it doesn't actually reflect any light back. We're not getting any sharp hot lights. And the other one is Blinn, and I see that one much more as a metallic surface. You can see there that here we get a hot spot that we're actually reflecting, and I've tweaked the parameters a little bit to make much more of a point of this hotspot. But that's effectively the two shades that we'll be using. Predominantly though, we'll be using a Blinn, and using a specular map we'll actually be tricking it to think that certain sections are a Lambert, or will act as a Lambert, and certain sections will act as a reflective Blinn surface. And it's very easy to set that up. We don't do anything inside Maya. Essentially we do all this sort of thing inside Photoshop. So I'll just show you the actual parameters of these two shaders. This is a Blinn setup, and here we've got the exact same stuff we were getting a Lambert. There we go. So inside Lambert we have colour, transparency, ambient colour, iridescence, all that, including our bump mapping where we input our normal maps. But with a Blinn we have the exact same thing, but then we have this specularity underneath, which controls the way the light reflects, or the light is absorbed or cast or diffused across a surface. I find using a basic Blinn gets you most of the way there. You might have to tweak these a little bit inside Maya if you're rendering inside Maya, but obviously we can output these shaders into Unreal, Unity, or RenderMan if you're doing animation, or anything like that. And here we can even change the colour of the reflection. So if we want to have something reflected as green, all we have to do is change the reflection colour. We're not touching the light colour, we're only touching the reflective colour, the specular colour, and that's the colour that's being reflected back from us. So if I take this same light over in this area, it's white, but then if I bring it back to this area, it's green. Same for this one. If I take this light and bring it over here, it's green, because it's not taking the light, it's taking the actual reflection of the surface. Okay? So understanding how specularity actually works is very easy once you understand how the map is read. And on screen here we've got a simple graph which just shows our polygon surface, and then this graph here in 0 to 1, and this graph here basically represents a black to white scale inside an image. And how this is read is the shader looks at the intensity of the white and the black, and then it applies more of the Blinn to that surface the more white it is. So if it's a perfect white, it will be a Blinn, and as it rolls off, the reflection actually dulls down till the point where it's just no reflection, and then that is back to our Lambert setting. So we're only using a Blinn as a shader, but by using this black to white scale we can actually have Lambert sections where there's no reflection, all the light is absorbed, or we can have our Blinns, and then in between, obviously. That's very easy to understand. Again, we have a light cast down to our Lambert section, and the light just passes straight through and is completely absorbed by the surface. And on our Lambert side, there is no absorption. The light is completely reflected into the player's eyes or the camera's eyes, so then we can actually gather our reflection from there. In between, that's where we're getting some reflection and some absorption, and then obviously in between those in-betweens we're getting different variables of reflection and absorption. And that is effectively how a shader works. So as long as you have a Blinn attached and inside the correct inputs you have our specularity map, you should get the desired results. And what we're going to do next is we're going to do a quick setup for a specular map using just Google Images, and then you can see how easy it is to actually apply and actually get, you know, close to your desired results. So unfortunately my microphone refused to record this section, so I'm just going to do a narrative over the top. Basically what I've done here is I've got an image from a marble image from Google just to show you what's going on. I found something which has a good varying white to grey to black, and I'm just creating a diffused version, or a version that I will use for my diffused, and then a version I'm going to use for my specular version. So what I'm going through here is, you know, you can change the colour of these black and white images on your diffused map to give it a bit of tone, but for our specular map we want to make sure it's black and white, as Maya or any shader only in a specular map only looks for a black and white input. It doesn't look for any sort of colour, any IBGs or CMYKs, none of that. So we're just going through and making sure it is black and white, and just showing the varying degrees of white to black, especially in that left section where it does get a bit dark. So now I'm just saving it out onto the desktop as my marble_s, S for specular. Obviously you'll have your own scenes set up where you can save all your shader files into, but for me I just put it on the desktop. So going back into Maya, I deleted the Lambert on the right just because we're not going to use it, and then I just focused on that Blinn material in the middle. I changed that reflective colour back to white, as the green it's not what I want, so I'll just change that back to white. And just like with inputting any sort of diffuse map, we're using the checkerboards on the right of any material attribute inside the attribute editor. So you can see there I'm just highlighting it. So to get there we have to go through our attributes editor there, and our material is always going to be the far right panel tab, and then underneath common material attributes you've got specular shading, and then we input our specular colour into our specular map into our specular colour using the little checkerboard on the right. Choose file and then click on the actual file icon, find your marble texture, turn on textures at the top, and then there you go. You can see there is some form of surface there. We are getting a bit of specularity change in there, but the map itself is a little shallow with its values from black to white. So I actually go back into Photoshop and adjust those levels now. So you can see there, yeah, it is a very shallow, not very value rich image. The whites and the greys are too close together. So if you go into image adjustments and then levels, this is the best way I find of adjusting this, and then literally just going through and messing with these little sliders until you get the desired results. The little arrow slider on the left is if you bring that to the right, that gets the image darker, and the one on the right, if you bring it to the left, gets it lighter, and then the middle one is a blend between the two. You know, you guys should have used these tools already in your studies. So I've just chosen an area, chosen a certain value to stick at. So I just save out my Marble S again, overwriting my previous one. And then if I go back into Maya, click on my material, and then inside the Blinn, I click on that little sample image. That will update because it basically does a check of all the shaders, and because the shader has changed, or the input has changed, it updates the file with that really nice new marble texture. You can see there that the blacks and the whites are much more separate. The darks are darker and the whites are whiter, so that you're getting a much better change. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to save out the first version as a diffuse map. So we're just going to save that out as a JPEG, call it Marble D for diffuse. And then inside Maya, we've done this a lot of times already, so you know, just go up to the very top color and then just input that texture. File, locate your file, Marble D, and then you can see there that we brought our marble texture in as a diffuse map, and we've got our specular map doing some really nice surface changes there. I took away that other light just because it was interfering with the scene too much, but there you can see that there is a lot of difference between the darker specularity areas and the whiter specularity areas. We're really picking out them certain sections. So the next video I'm going to be making is using this same map. I'm actually going to be making a normal map so that I can show you the next step of how to create a really deep surface by using very simple maps. Okay, thank you.